Hi, welcome to Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And I'm happy to be coming back to this moment where I'm sitting here in front of the microphone and I'm sharing about my day. It really is therapeutic for me to be able to do that. So thank you for listening, for whatever reason you're listening. Before I get into how my appointment went today and all that good stuff, I wanted to share with you the reading or the writing prompt for today. So this is March's Listener Challenge. Again, read the Serenity Prayer each day, and then take the writing prompt that I provide to you and just jot down some notes on the reading prompt. So today's reading prompt is: describe a situation where you found the courage to change something you previously felt was unchangeable. That's a good one. So good luck with that. And here we go. So, it's funny how I've been doing this so long now that it feels like when I finally sit down and close my eyes and hit record, it feels like I'm home, which is really kind of a cool feeling. And the first time I felt it today. So I went to my morning otolaryngology appointment, and it was educational. I learned after some tests that she said, and you might hear me flipping through some paperwork because I'm reading from paper today, that I have symptoms that are consistent with vestibular migraine and possible PPPD. So if you remember on Monday, I talked about these two things, right? I mean, it's funny how life happens when I suit up and show up for it. So PPPD, if you remember, was Persistent Postural-Perceptual Dizziness. And she gave me a document on really for me to read it and compare in. She said either you're going to read it and say, no, that's not me, or you're going to read it and be like, yeah, that's me. I've already read a similar document and already felt like, yeah, that's me. So I read this and again, I feel, yeah, that's me. So some of the things that the document says was that she's sensitive. Sorry, it's talking about a person. Like on this paper, it like gives an example of somebody who's suffering from triple PD. And it says being really sensitive to objects moving in the environment when one is sitting still, and difficult to use a computer or be in a busy environment such as a supermarket. Quite often thinking about the possibility of falling. And the way I would translate it is, and I've talked about it before, that it feels like my head, like my brain is a TV set and it's going to turn off and I'm just going to fall over. That's what it feels like. So it also says about dizziness taking over your life, migraines during which the dizziness gets worse. Let's see. Here's a page that I highlighted a bunch. This one talks about discomfort in places with patterned surfaces. That's a huge one for me. It talks about brain fog that I can relate to, discomfort with transportation, pattern services. I avoid places and feel anxiety towards, like if I'm in a room and if I walk into a room and there's a big window that has blinds on it, I automatically start getting nervous about it. It's just that's my reaction now because I know I'm going to feel like crap if I look up at the window. Now, I have accommodated for that feeling of nervousness by not looking now. Like I realize, well, I don't have to look at it. So that kind of just calms me down. So I don't really get very worked up anymore. But I used to. And then it talks about light and sound sensitivity, nausea, that sort of thing. So, I feel very much like I can relate, and I have been feeling that way since I've been doing my own research. My husband was talking to me today about being cautious about how much research I do and making sure that I'm open to receiving the information from the doctor. And I appreciate that as well. It's interesting because we have this wealth of information at our fingertips, with our computers and having to rein it in when we feel like we've identified a direction maybe that we want to go to a specialist and get seen for, but stopping there and not reading more about, at some point in the past 2 days, I ran across something about there's a disorder where your brain starts growing down your spinal column or something. I was like, oh my gosh. And that's why I was like, Rachel, you've gone too far. You need to just shut this. That is not what I have. Repeat, that is not what I have. It's just a vestibular migraine and possibly this triple PD. So, what is the next step? And this was encouraging. She provided another document on vestibular migraines, and what it says is that vestibular migraines, affects less than 1% of the general population, but accounts for approximately 10% of patients that are seen for dizziness and 10% of patients seen for migraine. So vestibular migraines have a strong female predominance of up to 5-1, and they often begin several years after first experiencing a typical migraine. Why does it happen? It's not completely understood. That's how I'll summarize that. There's a lot of words on here, but summarizing, the first sentence says it's not really fully understood why it happens. So what can we do about it? Well, there's a whole 2 pages about what precautions I can take. There is keeping a diary of my migraine. So I was doing that at 8 months ago when I first started dealing with all of this so that I could report back to my neurologist what was going on and what I was feeling. And I've kind of stopped doing that because it was the same thing every day. I have a headache, so I got away from that. But what I need to do is get back into that and really identify what I do throughout the day that causes it to get better or worse. It gets to a point where I feel a little frustrated about paying that close attention to my pain, but I think it's important to do that, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But keeping a diary of my migraines to identify potential triggers, identify associated symptoms. For example, when I sat down in front of the microphone to do this episode, I could hear my heart beating in my ear. And this is something that she mentioned today, actually. So that kind of thing, I need to write it down and make sure that I articulate that the best that I can. The better I can document and articulate what it is I'm experiencing, the better that they're going to be able to address it for me. So this diary is also in order to monitor any gradual improvements based on any of the other things that I do. So trigger management. There's lots of dietary triggers. And unfortunately, I'm pretty sure that my favorite things are the things that are triggers, and that is sugar, right? Sugar and caffeine. So, yeah, I remember when before I even admitted that I was an alcoholic, I thought, I'll quit smoking, I'll quit doing anything, but I'm not going to ever stop drinking. That's what I felt like after I quit drinking and quit smoking. I thought, okay, fine. I had to quit drinking, I had to quit smoking. I'll do anything, but I'm not going to stop eating my candy. Well, here we are. So, it looks like that's what I'm going to have to do. And whatever, honestly, I can live without candy. I'll find some other thing to get obsessed about it. We'll see what that's going to end up being. So, things like alcohol, which I don't have to worry about, chocolate. I don't eat a lot of chocolate. Peanut butter, which is interesting. Yeast products, which I had heard early on last year. I was guest on a podcast, and the guy who is also a stroke survivor said, "Oh, you're baking. What are you baking?" And I said, "Oh, I've been baking this sourdough and pretzels and all this stuff," and he scolded me for eating all of these yeast products. So there you go. You guys know I've been loving baking as well. I'm not going to cut all of these things out at once. It's just a matter of cutting some out, seeing what effect it has on my migraine, and then, adding it back in or not adding it back in. So other things that are on the list are processed meats, which I don't have to worry about because I'm vegan, onions, caffeine, olives, avocados, bananas, citrus fruit. That was all fairly interesting to me. And then there's other things that are migraine triggers, including TMJ, which if you're a lifetime listener, I think you might know that I have TMJ as well. Weather changes, those types of things. So I'll add that to my journal. In addition to this, these are eliminating other triggers one at a time. And you eliminate any suspected culprits, any suspected triggers for at least 2 months, and monitor the improvement pattern of your migraine, if there is something. So these things would be, for me, would be not using you all know I've eliminated just about everything. What I have not eliminated 100% is digital devices. And I have my goal of March 15th to switch over 100% to voiceover on my Mac. I'm already doing it on my phone. So voiceover on my Mac. And then I'm going to do that for 2 months. And we're going to see how much better I get. And Then I'll have to figure out what other things to eliminate that might be triggering me. I feel like I don't do much anymore, so we'll see. Another thing is conservative measures. So she provided some supplements that have been proven to help with migraines, and those are magnesium, coenzyme Q10, and vitamin B2. So these are 3 things I'm going to start taking, and it says that it may take 3 months for you to really have a noticeable improvement in your migraine symptoms. And then there are medications. So I'm taking Emgality, which is a monthly injection that you can put in your stomach or in your leg. I put it in my stomach. I hate it. It's very painful for a hot second. I can't stand it. But it's the one thing that has actually gotten the sharp pains to mostly go away for me. And then there are other things, beta blockers, propranolol, which we tried that didn't do anything. There's calcium channel blockers, verapamil. I tried that didn't do anything. So pharmaceutical type medicate or prescriptions to see how they'll help in addition to the Emgality injection. So she provided 3 neurologist recommendations that are focused on headache management. So I'm going to make an appointment with one of those and kind of get a second opinion, because I've been trying lots of different things with this neurologist, and honestly, I really feel like I could benefit from getting a second opinion from another neurologist. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So that's in the plan. And then another treatment for vestibular migraines is vestibular therapy. So I'll be doing that as well. And in vestibular therapy, what they do is try to improve your balance confidence, improve your threshold for withstanding some of these things that are triggers. Like for me, it's movement and patterns. Mostly movement. I can avoid patterns, if I want to. I would like to not have to avoid patterns, but increasing my threshold for being able to see movement. And then visual coordination. So I'm going to be seeing a vestibular therapist as well. So that is next steps. And then the next thing after that, there's a test that is called, let's see if I can pronounce it. This is another piece of paper. This will be fun because I didn't see if I could pronounce this before I hit record. So electronystagmography. Electronystagmography and video nystagmography. ENG-VNG is what they abbreviated as. So this is a vestibular test. And I didn't read too much about it, but it looks like it is the first one, the ENG test. They put electrodes on your face and they measure muscular reactions when you're exposed to stimuli that triggers your migraine, that triggers the reaction, your symptoms. And then the other one, the VNG, they put this goggle big thing on your face, kind of like the latest Apple product that came out, where they put the big old thing on your face. Sorry, I can't think of words right now. It happens some days when I have a hard day. So they put that on your face, something like that on your face, and they expose you to stimuli, and it actually has cameras on your eyes, and it watches how you react, and it's watching like even the slightest milli movement. You know what I mean? To see how you react to these types of triggers. So, what is this for? I'm not really sure. I think it's in order to check off things, to make sure I don't have something, to see what it is that I have. There's lots of different conditions that could be happening, and I think these tests are to check off the more troublesome ones, the more severe things. So these tests are not in order to diagnose me with vestibular migraine and PPPD. It is to check off or to acknowledge that I don't have other things. There is no test to diagnose somebody with vestibular migraines and this other vestibular PPPD disorder. She said there are only tests to rule things out. So that's how my appointment went. And so this is interesting. So whenever I have a doctor's appointment, I come home and I feel like crying. I feel very sad. I feel depressed. I feel hopeless. And I feel like no progress has been made, and, I don't know what to do. And so this morning, when I was getting dressed for my appointment, I remembered that people talk all the time about praying and asking for things and stuff. I've never done that. My whole life, I never ask for anything when I pray. I only express gratitude. I've just only ever done that from when I was a child, and I don't know why, but that's what I do. So today I thought, well, if I'm going to ask for something, if I'm going to rub the genie bottle and ask for something, then today would be the day. So I decided, I was in my closet. I was like, all right, I'm going to get down on my knees and I'm going to pray and I'm going to ask for something. So we'll see what happens. So it felt weird. I didn't like it at all. But it's not that it felt weird praying. It felt weird asking for something. I'm like, what is this, like Santa Claus? I don't get it. Anyway, so I asked that today be the first step towards finding answers and a direction for me, to finding out what's really wrong with me and how I might be able to start moving forward. So that's exactly what happened. And why then, when I got home, did I feel sad and frustrated? And I felt like, okay, well, I'm back home and nothing's really changed. I still feel absolutely terrible. I still have no job. Um, you know, and I didn't really know what to do with those feelings. So coincidentally, or maybe not, that's probably not a good word to use. It never is. Whenever you want to use coincidentally, it probably is not appropriate. Like it probably doesn't even fit to the situation. Just a side note. Anyway, what happened was I had a psychiatrist appointment about a half an hour after or about an hour after I got home from the otolaryngology appointment. And I thought, well, this is good because now I'm going to actually talk to somebody about how terrible I feel after a doctor's appointment, how sad and depressed I feel after a doctor's appointment. So we got on and I started sharing with her, and I said, how I feel. And so she started talking to me about choice. And I thought this was interesting because you guys know I always say that you can choose how you're going to feel. You can choose happiness. And that's what I've been doing. I've been choosing happiness. And she said to me, feelings are not a choice. She said, you don't choose to feel sad. You just are sad. What you're choosing is whether you're going to push it away or you're going to process it. And I thought, wow, she really just completely knocked down my entire idea about choosing happiness. Because what that translates to me as is what I'm choosing is to push away my sadness and choose happiness. So I'm not processing my emotion. I'm choosing to ignore it and keep moving on without it. She said, we choose not the feeling, but what we do with the feeling. It was really profound for me. I don't know, because I'm always telling you guys like, oh, yeah, we can choose happiness. And I'm like, people, I don't know if that is what we choose. Maybe I have not been letting myself feel the emotions as they come. I'm picking and choosing what emotion I want to feel at what time. If I want to feel happy right now, I'm going to make myself feel happy. I can do that because I've trained myself to do that. But is that healthy? That's what I'm figuring out today. I don't know if that's been healthy for me. I think that I have been preparing, like building up this strength, building up this muscle to maybe endure, but also ignore. I don't talk about how I feel at the time that I feel something. That is pretty consistent in my life. What I did when I was in middle school and high school, very, very much in high school, was I wrote poetry. So when I felt something every night, I was just spitting out poetry every night in high school, page after page, and I still have them all. And I think I may have mentioned that before. They're not good. I don't think they are. But anyway, they are poetry of a high schooler who had tons of chemicals flowing around in their body. And it was a really healthy, I believe, outlet for me. But after I went to college, I feel like I shared how I felt with my roommate all the time. Like, we were best friends. And until we joined sororities. And then I feel like maybe she found new best friends. I don't know, but I did too. I shouldn't blame her. I did too. Anyway, so did I talk? Yeah. In college, I talked to my friends about my emotions too. When did I stop? Because I did stop. At some point, I stopped talking about how I felt at the time that I felt it. And fast forward today so that I'm not like in real time trying to figure out when that was that I stopped sharing my feelings as I felt them. Maybe that's another episode. She said that people need to talk about how they feel, good or bad, at the time that they feel it. And what I thought of was I could align this idea with having added a line to my world famous schedule on my whiteboard. I added a line that says, call someone today. So what I could do is when I call someone today, I tell them how I'm feeling, because that's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing when I call somebody is I'm telling them what is happening, what actions I'm taking, I'm making a quilt, I'm cleaning, I'm listening to audiobook, I'm talking about what I'm doing, but I never talk about what I'm feeling. There are times if somebody catches me at the right time, and ask me the right question, I will just completely break down. That happened to a couple people. There were a couple victims of mine. One was a staff member of mine, right when I had left work. She called me and I was out walking and I was already just so distraught. And she said, "How are you feeling?" And I was like, oh no. Like, that was like opening the waterworks. Like, that she just pulled the dam down and I just broke down. And I was like, I'm wrecked. I felt so defeated and lost, and like everything had just been stolen from me. That's how I felt. And today, I wanted to start going to the psychiatrist because I wanted to talk to a point where I would start crying, but it's not happening. I haven't been crying. Like, when I went to my addiction therapist, I think the first time I went there, I just started crying. This time, I thought the same thing would happen, but I have not been crying. And I really feel like I need to cry, but it's just not happening. And so her and I talked today about what I can do to elicit that, to get myself to feel, to let myself not feel, but process, like let the stuff surface to the point where I let it out, where I cry. So she suggested that I paint, because I have painting as one of my activities that I enjoy. Journaling, because I have that as well as an activity I enjoy. And what she talked about was something, she called it word vomit, which is not very attractive, but she was talking about getting out a piece of paper and just writing down everything that you want to write down. Doesn't have to be for an audience. It can be scribbles. It doesn't even have to be words. Like you could get a pen and just, scratch so hard on the paper that you break the pen. It doesn't have to mean anything. And I told her that when I journal, so I journal every day. I journal in preparation for my podcast episode. So I have a topic that comes to mind at some point during the day, whether it's in my morning's sobriety meeting or something else that I encountered throughout the day, and then I'll write about it. But when I'm writing for an audience. I'm not writing my deepest, darkest secrets. I'm sharing with you all to a point, because I'm still human, and I'm still, although I probably share more than a lot of other people would, I must be, because I have people telling me all the time, like, you're so brave to be talking about this stuff, publicly. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not saying everything because, there's a certain level of privacy like that everybody wants. And it's that stuff that I'm not sharing. And that's what I was hoping would come out with the psychiatrist. And today I did just about start crying. Like I had tears in my eyes. And I said to her, I'm tired. I'm tired of this. Like, this is exhausting. And I think what's exhausting is trying to be strong is exhausting. And so she was saying how important it is, to share with others so you don't feel like you're carrying it all yourself. And I said that I felt like sharing with others feels like I'm burdening others. It's just an automatic feeling. I feel like, well, I don't want to trouble them with my stuff, And I also feel like talking about how I feel, somebody's going to think that they have to give me an answer, like they have to give me a solution for my problems. And that's not why I want to talk about it. I don't really want to have an answer. I just want somebody to tell me that everything is going to be okay, or that everything is okay. So she talked about how to process these negative emotions when I feel them, like feel them, do something that elicits it. She also suggested listening to music, which I've shared with you all is a painful activity for me. So I'm maybe going to expose myself to that horrible thing in order to process emotions. And then after I've processed it for a while, meaning probably cry, then move on to acknowledging the facts of my situation and reframing my mindset, and then then change my environment and do an activity that's positive. So that's what she said. 3 steps. Feel the negative. 2 is acknowledge the facts and reframe my mindset. And then 3, do an activity that's positive. Like baking or doing something like that I like, listening to an audiobook or something. So she said, you've built the strength around you to get you this far, and I have not always acknowledged how sad or stressed I am because I'm protecting myself and trying to keep myself moving forward. And she said, you don't have to keep the armor on all the time. Like, you can take the armor off sometimes and process your emotions and then put the armor back on. You don't have to keep it on all the time. So she did acknowledge also, which really resonated with me, that, and I say it on here all the time, that the negative stuff, the hard stuff that we deal with is where growth and change are. And when I try so hard to be strong and keep my armor on all the time, I'm not allowing myself to reap the benefits of that pain, right? That makes a lot of sense to me. I'm not able to get the most out of my grief and my negativity and my pain if I'm ignoring it. That means a lot. And she also finished up by saying to remember that emotions are temporary. When you take the armor off and you let yourself process them, that doesn't mean that your whole day has to be shitty. That you can go to a sobriety meeting. You can say, okay, at 10 o'clock, I'm going to process some negative emotions. And you sit down and you do whatever it is you have to do. If that means you get in the shower and cry, then that's what you do. If it means you sit with a piece of paper and just start writing terrible things down, then that's what you do. And you do it for, time block it. And then when you're done, you say, okay, I'm done processing this right now. Let's return back to the facts of what's actually going on and reframe my mindset, and then go change my environment, go do something positive. So I liked what she told me about this, and I wanted to make sure that I shared it with you. I feel good now. At the end of the day, I feel good. My daughter called me to share some of the experiences that she had today, and I got the opportunity to help her and give her some advice based on my experience in the things that she was talking about. That made me feel good. It's always so helpful to be able to help somebody else. And then after I helped her and she was like, thank you, Mommy, I shared with her my doctor's appointment and how I was feeling. And she said that she felt really encouraged by the fact that they have vestibular therapy. They have doctors who specialize in the thing that they feel like I might have. And she said, that's really exciting, Mom. I feel like I lit up when I heard you say that. And so knowing that she had that reaction, I feel like that was a boost that I needed. Maybe I needed somebody else to guide me in how I may need to feel, because I don't know what to feel, because I still feel terrible. I'm still in pain. Nothing has changed. So it's hard for me to feel different when I feel the same. Hopefully going to the therapist, the vestibular therapist, will help me to start feeling different. But it was really nice to hear her get excited. That was really a great ending to a difficult day, I think. So thank you for listening to my wisdom today, and just I guess sharing my experience, yes, my strength, yes, and my hope. I think I did end with a little bit of hope. So thanks for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.